Oh, I see. So I just made myself host on the computer. I do see the breakout rooms. So just let me know if you
Two.
want to do that. I can do that for you too.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you. All right. Bear with me just one second, guys. I'm getting my information up here. I accidentally closed my window with my important PowerPoint stuff. Bear with me just a second. There we go. All right. So after today's session, hopefully you guys will be able to create and present a listing presentation to help you get a listing. And we're going to examine some methods of marketing and identifying characteristics, pros and cons and use cases. And we'll create some marketing materials using Design and Command if we have time. All right. So today, we all know what we focus on as a real estate professional throughout all our days, right? We grow our business and we run our business. Today's class, we're going to be focusing on making seller listing presentations and getting listings. Now, we've already covered some of the basics in the previous section in Spark, working with sellers. This session will be building on the knowledge that you gained during that session. All right. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about today what sellers want. We're going to talk about, we'll look at what sellers want, what they say they want, and how that affects your conversations with them. We'll talk about setting up for the appointment, what we do before the appointment, right? The best listing appointments are continuations of ongoing conversations. So we'll talk about how to prepare yourself and your future seller to get the most out of the listing appointment. We'll cover the listing presentation. We'll cover what a good listing presentation should achieve and how. And then we'll talk about what you should do in your listing appointments to establish yourself as the local market expert and gather information you need to market and sell the house. So after today, you'll understand the expectations for a successful listing appointment and know where to find the resources to get started. You guys know in your Elementals toolkit, you have a lot of great resources there. You have a pre-listing packet there that you can review and customize and make your own. It's a good starting point. What do you guys think about this chart here? How sellers found their agent? Right. According to the NAR research, 39% of sellers either knew their listing agent or were referred to their listing agent by a friend, neighbor, or relative. That's the highest percentage by far of source for listing appointments. Okay, 20% of the buyers had used their listing agent previously to buy or sell a home. That's actually a very profound number, and I'll get into that in a little bit. 5% chose their realtor after being personally contacted by them. 4% found their agent through a website. 3% found their agent by visiting an open house. And the other 22% were made up by other methods, like for sale signs, open house signs, maybe agent-to-agent referrals, or direct mail or social media, things of that nature. So, how could we break this down to use this in our business, right? You have to build relationships with people that you know to get listings. 39% of available listings are referrals and people coming straight out of your sphere of influence, statistically speaking, right? 27% used an agent previously or used their agent to buy their house. What does that tell you? I would think that number would be much, much higher, right? You think you do such a great job because most people actually are very satisfied with their agent when they buy their house. And at the end of that relationship, they're really happy with them for the most part. I'd say over 80%, but yet only 27% relist with that person when it's time to sell. What does that tell you guys?
The agents don't do a good job in keeping in touch.
Very good. Agents don't do a good job keeping in touch. Even in my coaching business and whatnot, I see a lot of agents that are really focused on these 3, 4, and 5% methods here, right? They're worried about their websites. They want to host open houses. They want to go door knocking. And they spend so much focus there, yet I don't think they spend enough time focusing on the 39%. The 39% working with their people they already know in their sphere of influence. And I would hope that in our office, we'll do a better job and we'll get much more than this 27% of people that we sell to come back to us and list with us. So they come back to us and list with us. How can we do that? What can we do to ensure that people come back and list with us?
Put them on a smart plan.
Yeah, put them on a smart plan. Communicate with them relentlessly. Just because you sold somebody a house does not mean the relationship's over. The reality is the relationship is just started. And guys, trust me, nothing hurts more than driving down the street and seeing a for sale sign, somebody else's sign on a house that you sold previously. It's happened to me a couple of times. It's like getting punched in the stomach. It really sucks. Then you get all flustered and you call the agent, you call your client and go, "What's up?" They're like, "Well, they were knocked on my door and it just happened," right? So I didn't spend enough time. That was the first time I called that person in a year. So bad on me, right? So it's not their fault they picked somebody else. It's my fault because I didn't diligently follow up with them and didn't maintain a relationship as closely as I should have. In reality, how many times should I have been following up with them over the course of the year? What does MREA say? Anyone? 8x8 33 touch. Obviously not, maybe not for an 8x8, but for a 33 touch. I should have communicated with them 33 times. That's where I failed. So we try not to do that again and learn from our mistakes. And now I do maintain much closer relationships with the people that I have sold homes to in the past. Now, would you be surprised to learn that 75% of all sellers only contact one agent before selecting one? And then only 15% talk to two before selecting one? What does that say? Tells me you got to be the one. You got to be the one. And how can we be the one? Come on, guys, don't all speak at once. How can we be the one? Give me the answer already. Are we still asleep? We should do the morning exercise. I should have you guys get up and do some jumping jacks. What do you think? How can we be the one that people got? You touch them 33 times, right? Make sure you maintain that relationship. And I've said it like 5 times because it's important. Make sure that we maintain that relationship. All right. What do sellers want? This is, again, NAR does a good job of doing these surveys so we get some understanding and insight into our business to help us grow, right? 21% of sellers want help marketing the home. 20% want to do it in a specific time frame where it's important. Time frame is important. 19% said you need your help to price the home effectively. Only 16% need your help to fix up the home to help it sell for more. 13% need you to help find the buyer. And 11% say other. And guys, just because at the beginning they say they don't want your help or necessarily need your help with paperwork and negotiations, doesn't mean they don't actually need your help with those things. They do. They just don't know it yet. A lot of times, sellers may be only selling a house once or twice, maybe 3 times in their lifetime. So they don't necessarily even know what's important yet. A lot of that we're going to help them understand as we go through the process. But it's very important that we know and communicate these things, because during the process, if we don't establish expectations, then we could run into problems. And the last thing you want is to have problems with your sellers. You guys always want to be on the same team. You don't want that to turn into a hostile situation where they don't like you and you no longer like them. It's not going to facilitate a top dollar fast sale. So setting expectations is going to be critical. So how do we set those expectations? All right, let's talk about the process to a listing. Step 1, pre-listing questionnaire. All right, we're going to ask the potential seller to review information and ask some questions that'll help us understand what their expectations are of us. Right? You have a lead, they expressed an interest in selling their home. Right now we got to convert them. So step 1 is a pre-listing questionnaire. After you have understand their expectations, motivations, and their timeline, right, how soon they want to sell, we can schedule that listing appointment. And after the appointment's set, you send over the pre-listing presentation. Now, the pre-listing presentation, in what form could it be? How could we express a pre-listing presentation? Right, we can send them a physical binder or something of that nature, of course. You can make a website as well. That's your pre-listing presentation and send them a link, right? These are, we're in the technology capital of the country after all. So there's a myriad of ways that we can get a pre-listing presentation to them. Why do you guys think that's important? Pre-listing presentation. Do you guys want to be in a living room for 4 hours?
To set expectations.
You get their expectations. Well, that's what we do with the pre-listing questionnaire. Why would we send them a pre-listing presentation to review? Because we don't want to sit in the living room for 4 hours, right? We want to fast. Speed is not necessarily the most critical element of this all, but our time is valuable. And we want to pre-answer a lot of questions that are generic in nature. So that way, when we're actually in the home or we're conducting the actual listing presentation, we're focusing on the critical things that will get the listing signed and move it forward, right? You don't have to go through your background as much because you've already sent ahead of time information about how you sell homes. You've sent ahead of time your previous sold, so they kind of get an understanding of your marketing and what to expect when their home goes to the market. So you don't have to spend a lot of time explaining those things by sending that information ahead. That way, when you meet with them, you can solidify their expectations and then really go over the process of having your home on the market and what they need to expect from the market and how things are going to work moving forward. Okay, that in and of itself is pretty much an hour. Okay, so if we're having to do a lot of the stuff from the pre-listing packet, selling ourselves, then we're going to be there for 2 or 3 hours. Nobody wants to do that. They don't want you there for 2 or 3 hours. You don't want to be there for 2 or 3 hours. It's very difficult to convince someone to book that kind of time with you. You know, in reality, when we're booking these appointments, I'm really only looking to book a 30-minute to 45-minute session. And if it takes a little extra, then so be it. But that's okay. It's easy to get people to commit to an hour or less. It's much more difficult to get people to commit to an hour or more. Right? Now, once you understand the entire situation, you know what their house is, you know what they expect, then you can create your listing presentation. And it's catered to their property, right? It's a different presentation if the property is in bad shape. It's a different presentation if they already live in a museum and they don't have much to prepare the houses. You can stick it's very rare. You can stick your for sale sign on tomorrow and sell the house on the coming weekend. Some people live like that, not everyone. So you have to cater that presentation to whatever the needs are of the client that you're working with. And then at the listing appointment, you're walking through the house, you're going to present that listing presentation and then secure the listing. So at each step, All right, we had some time earlier in our sessions to create your value proposition. So you want to reiterate your value proposition as you're going through each step of the way, so that helps you close at the end of the day, right? They believe in your value proposition. That's why you're in their living room. Unless they have another agent scheduled to present already, there should be no excuse for not walking out of that living room without a signed listing agreement. And even if they do have another agent presentation scheduled, still don't give up on one try. There's a good chance that if you do a great job and you build a good rapport and they have ultimate faith in your ability, there really is no need for them to interview anybody else. And you can express that and try to close for that listing. Because you never know. Because they, yeah, sounds like good, Mark. Please call the other agent and cancel my appointment for me. Yeah, no worries. I'll do that 10 times out of 10. You know, a lot of times they already booked the appointment. They just don't want to cancel it. So if we have an agreement, we can make the deal. I'll be happy to call and cancel that appointment with the other agent. Maybe they'll have a buyer for us. Right? All right. So before the appointment, right, you'll do a lot more listening than talking. Right? You can't really meet their needs unless you know what they're meeting, what they expect. One of my favorite questions, and you know, it can't be the answer to your prayers if I don't know what you're praying for. So we have to ask the questions and see what the expectations are. All right. In Spark, we talked about identifying A, B, and C sellers. You guys remember what those are? A, B, and C. What makes it, what does it mean to be a C seller? What's a C seller?
At 6 months out or more with a time
I'd say, yeah, you're on the right path. Maybe not so much six months down the line, but I'd say 2 months or more down the line. Someone who's not going to be listing in the next 60 days. Right, a B seller between 2 weeks and 60 days. And then the A seller is ready to rock and roll within the next 2 weeks. So if you're already at this point, right, the seller's already been thinking about selling their home for a bit. So they have their expectations. Like they may have some conceptions about pricing. Zillow's no secret these days. Redfin's no secret these days. They all have opinions on pricing. And everyone has a timeline that they want you to meet. So yeah, sometimes their expectations are reasonable, sometimes they're not, but you don't know unless you ask. You go through that discovery process. But their motivation and their time frame, as well as their expectations, are something that we can work with. And remember, guys, not only are they interviewing you, you're also interviewing them. Because sometimes their expectations are off the charts. They want more money than the house is worth. Sometimes it's not worth taking. Not every listing is worth taking. Okay. But you can work with most people and adjust their expectations, once you know what they are, and then bring them to reality, because that's part of the process, right? Who here owns a home? Does everyone, you guys homeowners? No, some of us not. Some of us are. Right? What do we think about the value of our own homes? Are we really realistic? Or do we have rose-colored glasses when it comes to the value of our own homes, right? Everyone thinks their home is worth more than it's worth. It's our job as professionals, independent third parties in this scenario to bring in the reality. And hopefully you have a meeting of the minds. Sometimes though, when the market's super hot like this, maybe their expectations aren't as great. And that makes our life easier, right? When you exceed their expectations, you look like a hero, and you have a greater chance of getting referrals. That makes sense? Yeah.
Mark, have you ever walked away from a listing if a buyer is unrealistic?
Yes. I have. And it's usually their value is off. Not in this market right now. The market that we're in is very hot. The chances of things not working out is fairly small. So as long as they may want a lot more, but as long as they're on board with the strategy of the day, then we can make it happen, or at least get close enough to it that they'll make their move. So I'd be more reluctant to pass on it now. But we've been in a multitude of different markets, and yeah, I have, and I've also, just not jived with certain people where their expectations were a little different than what I was willing to provide, and then we walked away in that scenario. And the third reason that we don't get listings or it hasn't worked out is their expectations of our fees. They just couldn't come around to paying a reasonable rate. And sometimes, we do our best to overcome those objections, and we'll arm you with the necessary scripts to help you do that. But not every seller is going to be an ideal seller for you. There's just some cheap ass people in this world. And that's okay. They can fire their cheap ass agent and have a cheap ass result. We have other, if we're diligently lead generating, it's not as important because I know that, hey, I have more listing appointments. I'll get a listing this week, right? Or I have more buyer appointments. I'll get another buyer consultation this week. So as long as you're diligently lead generating, it's not as hard to walk away.
I know we
And it's
talked about,
empowering too.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I know we've talked about this in length in past meetings, but more and more on commercials and signpost outside, like in Silver Valley or just commercials at night, they're showing a lot of 2%, 1% listings. They just seem to be appearing up more and more.
Yeah, it's true. It happens, especially when the market's super hot like this. Not everyone sees the value. But I would challenge you to follow those listings and see their end result. Are they getting the top dollar? Are they selling in a timely manner? Because if they are, that's one thing. But I assure you that in most cases they're not. And you can bring your results when you've had some success, or share the results of some of the more successful agents on the team here to help you overcome those scenarios. Because if you can show someone that, hey, yeah, this guy lists at 1%, but look at his results. They're all mediocre. He's selling his properties in the middle. They're not selling at the top. So his clients are really losing 4 or 5% in value because they're just not doing a very good job. They're not diligently following up, or they're eliminating the competition in the marketplace. Like what in today's market, what really drives the price up? It's competition. And a lot of times when you list with an agent that has a very low listing fee, well, what they're really trying to do is double in the deal. So they're out marketing. They know that if they bring the buyer, then instead of 1%, then they're going to make their 3.5%. And in marketing, the chances of identifying a buyer are going to be pretty good. There's a lot of times when, back in the day when we had open houses, aggressive buyers would come and try to make a deal with the listing agent thinking that they'll get a good price. And with some agents, it works because they're offering a low commission. They want a higher commission. And once these guys are coming with a fair price, that's the offer that they beat down the seller's throat. Sometimes eliminating others. Is it ethical? Hell no. Is it done? Absolutely done. I've had it happen. I've seen it tracked. It happen many times where I'm coming in. I know I have a buyer that has a solid, good offer. And you see the house go pending. They say, oh, we'll take offers on Tuesday, but it goes pending on Monday. And then you track it when it's sold. It sold for 50 grand less than your client was ready to offer. It happens all the time. So that's up to us when you're in that appointment to educate the seller and let them know that this happens. Be careful. If you choose to list with that agent, be careful. Make sure that they are presenting all offers. Make sure that they are opening the house to be viewed by all parties and not just siphoning people so they can double end it. One of my value propositions is that in this hot market, I will not double end it. There is no way. My goal is to get you the most money possible. To that end, I can't double end it because my goal with my buyers is to get them the best deal possible. And that just doesn't coincide. It's a conflict of interest. That's one of the values that you present as being
I have
ethical.
a question about this. When we see this happen, Mark, when we see this happen, and I go to many meetings and people say how ethical they are, and then they tell me that they've double-ended it. Do we have, Is there an ethical standard that they should abide by that they are not abiding by doing exactly that?
So it's a good question, Sheila. The ethics of it all is, we're trying to get the best result for the people that hired us at the end of the day. Now, in a hot market like we're in right now, where the likelihood of getting multiple offers and competing buyers for the property is pretty high. And in those cases, it's unethical to double end, because you have multiple people. As a listing agent, your job is to extract the most from all those people. You don't want to shine anybody out. Excuse me. When the market slows down, or what in the event that you missed it and you don't have multiple offers, and now the house is sitting on the market for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, then it's a little different story, because I think that at the end of the day, our job is to get this house sold. And if I
We're
don't have
talking about
multiple
this
offers,
market today. This
Yeah.
market today, I hear this all the time from some agents, and I'm very upset with them, and I say it publicly. Your job, you cannot have two jobs in one head. You have no allegiance to either. And if you're, bottom line is, what procedure should we as ethical agents follow when we experience this? And they say, oh, I'm ethical, I'm doing the best. And I don't believe in one bit. Do we
Well,
have a
I
way
mean-
to say to our association, these practices are violating our ethical standard, period?
Unfortunately, the professional standards of NAR don't eliminate the double lending of transactions. So there is no mandates, if you will, that people are violating by doing so. The
In
only
this
consequence
market,
that you can have, the only consequences would be if there's a seller out there that does take a lower offer and you happen to know who they are, and you say, look, buddy, I have $50,000 more for you. This guy never returned my call. Then they go ahead and sue that guy. But we can't do anything necessarily about it.
I just
We
think
can't
it's
necessarily
so
do anything about
unethical.
it. I agree with you.
And they should not
I
be
don't know.
allowed to do it. And they should not be allowed, in this market, they should not
In
be
some
allowed to
states,
do it.
in some states, you can't double lend. In California is not one of those. In California, you can. But that's just part of life. Right. So
So Mark,
let's get back to, yes, bro.
so what you're saying is it depends on the situation, it depends on the market, it depends on the buyer and seller.
Yes. It does.
mean,
Argument over.
I double
And then
ended,
Blake-
and they insisted it. They trusted me. I sat them both down at the same table, and I said, this is how it was gonna work. This is what you're
And
offering. and this-
some cases are like that too. I've had situations where sellers want to sell a house to their friend. They don't want to go on the market. They already have the buyer already. They just need help with the paperwork and make sure that everything is, all the I's are dotted, T's are crossed, and you facilitate those. And that's technically double ending. You tell the seller, hey, I can probably get you more in the market, but let's help your friend out. That's up to them, right? That's their decision. And a lot of
That's a
times it's
different
family friends.
story. That's a completely different story than holding back a listing and not
Yeah.
allowing others to participate.
Well, that's the point I wanted to make when you guys started arguing about I'll never double in. No, it all depends on the situation. It depends on the market. It depends on the people. You've got to look at every deal separate as its own entity.
Very good.
Exactly right.
Absolutely true.
In this market,
Absolutely
the
true.
entity is highest price for the seller, not the best deal for the buyer.
That's it. That's it.
Unless
And Blake
both of
mentioned
them
in
are
the-
two friends that are doing a deal privately, or you got to look at every deal separate. There's no blanket for everything.
Rob, I don't disagree with you.
You
I'm
got it.
simply saying one thing. In this market, your highest and best ethical standard is to give the highest and best price to the seller, no matter if you have a buyer or not, unless you can't do it anyway. Okay, I'm
Sure.
done.
All right, let's not beat a dead horse. I think we're in agreement. And Blake mentioned in the chat, just want to bring that up. Can't you just refer the other client and get your percentage from the other agent who represents that client? The answer to that is absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what I do when in the open house days, when people would come to me and say, hey, we want to write an offer on this house. We want you to represent us. I said, well, I can't represent you. I represent the seller. But then here's my associate from my office. We'll be more than happy to get with you, run your market analysis, and help you buy this house. And yes, I do take a referral fee. Absolutely. For every lead, yeah, we generate the leads. We take the referral fees. That's the power of the listing. Listings generate business. That's it. All right. So let's get back to the presentation here. We're talking about the pre-listing goals, right? Our pre-listing packet. What do we want to achieve before we actually get into that listing presentation? So, you know, there's 3 critical roles of the pre-listing packet. You want to state your value, right? The value that you'll provide as their listing agent. Remember that the sellers have specific goals that they want you to achieve. And the first step in discovering their goals is telling them how you'll help them achieve their goals, right? Pre-selling, right? It builds the seller's confidence and answers questions in advance of the presentation. And, you know, buyers use an agent because they want advice and expertise, making them feel like they better understand the process. That's an important part of the value proposition. You're going to guide them through the process and explain certain things, how they work. Then when it's time to actually conduct the presentation, you can elaborate more on the things that are important to that seller. And then you want to save time, right? The pre-listing packet is going to tackle some common obstacles, and it'll make your actual consultation shorter and smoother. So what do you guys think? What are some of the biggest questions that anyone will want to ask about that wants to sell their home? What are they going to ask you? What's important to a home seller? What do you guys think?
How much will I get? What's my bottom line? What's my net, you know? I come
How
in
much-
with 3 offers. And I say, if we sell it for X, Y, and Z, this is what you can net. So I'm prepared.
Yep. How much they're going to get? That's on the top of their minds. What else?
How much is this going to cost me? What do I have to pay?
Sure. How much will it cost?
I think a net sheet does it all.
And that, yeah, when you do the net sheet, it explains the cost as well. Anyone else?
How you market my property. Who's
How
the
will you market my
advertising?
property?
Right.
Yeah.
What experience do you have?
Yep. What experience you might have? What else?
Testimonials from people who you've worked with.
Well, that's something that you're going to provide as edification of your service. But what do you think that they're going to ask you as a seller? What can we predict? How fast will we sell my house?
Can you lower your commission?
Right.
Why
That goes
should I
back
pick
to how much
you?
will it cost? Right.
Why should I pick you as opposed to other agent?
Yep. Why you?
I sometimes have heard people put down 0 commission and have a different strategy if that's what they want, which is kind
Sure.
of interesting. And legal and ethical.
You're talking about net listing, or what do you mean 0?
On the listing, they say if you want 0 commission and I can bring you more than you expected, and you pick some number and they agree to that number, then we can realize the commission coming from that will be on the increased value, and I'm going to ask you for the 6%.
Is it like a net listing? Like, I'm not really understanding.
Yeah,
No, I
that's
think what Sheila's getting at is the seller is expecting, let's say, $1 million for their house. And you say, well, if I only get $1 million, I won't charge you anything. If I get $1.1 million, I take 6%. Am I right, Sheila? Is that what we're talking about?
And you can also say, I want some part of a shared appreciation. Or, you know, if you get significantly more, and you show them the comps, but you tell them the market conditions, and I feel strongly that I'll take 0 from you, knowing I'm going to get X. I believe we can get, I can't promise, and I'm willing to take that. Are you willing to sign under those conditions? 7%, whatever.
Yeah, at the
More
end of the
than they
day,
would
guys, remember
expect.
remember, we're closing for an appointment. We're going to close for the deal at the listing presentation, but we want to set expectations in our pre-listing presentation. And if people are worried about commission, you know, there's verbiage you can put in your pre-listing presentation to overcome those fears. Maybe offer a variable commission structure. You know, that could be something that's in that listing presentation. My personal philosophy, of course, listing commissions are 100% negotiable, but it's the last point of negotiation. Okay, if you want me to negotiate the commission, my expectation is that you will sign the listing agreement right now.
Absolutely.
So
Mark,
there is
this
a
is Rick.
little. Rick, please.
Yes, just a quick question. I've had my hand raised, but regarding the office stands as far as 1%. I've never taken a 1% commission ever. And the reason why is because I know that's too much work that's involved in this thing. And so what is the office, because in this kind of market, as was previously mentioned, you know, 1% listing that will basically, you have a chance of, you know, double ending it. And I'm actually one of those guys that do double end, and it's only wrong. It's only unethical if your seller is not fully aware of what's going on. Because sometimes when they know that you're representing your own buyer, and at the same time they get the highest price, because then you have control over the whole entire transaction, then it's a good thing for the seller. Primarily, of course, good thing for you. So I just want to make that input. So going back to my question is, what is the office stance as far as, you know, there's a lot of competition out there right now. I've been to 3 listing presentations within the last week and a half, and man, everybody's going down their fees. So I just want to ask if something the office is okay with as far as the 1%.
So from an office perspective, if you're a capping agent, they don't really care. Your cap, it's your business. At the end of the day, though, you know, it is your business, and you want to be as competitive as you possibly can. But you also want to understand that you do provide value, and there's cases where a seller might be willing to pay more. Not always a race to the bottom, right? Not everyone's the Kmart shopper. If your clients are, then it is what it is, and you make that business decision if that's what you want to do. Are there agents in our office that take listings at 1.5%? They do. Am I happy to see it? Not really. But are they capping agents? Yeah. So I mean, from an office bottom line perspective, it doesn't affect us as much. You know, if you're working on a team, obviously the team's going to have different standards, if you will, because there is no capping situation. But again, it's going to go back to your business and how you run that business. And, you know, you could have that double ending conversation with someone, and the next agent that comes down the road can have a better presentation and win them over. But you never know. I'd say do what's right for you and your business. And my suggestion always is, if you're negotiating commission, you get that listing signed. There is no tomorrow. If I'm going to go down from 3 to 2 or 2.5 to 2, whatever, if I make a single concession, that concession is good right now. If you call me tomorrow, it's 6%. You got to stick to that sometimes. Nico, you have your hands up.
No, I'll put it down. Thank you. Thank you.
No, Rick, we got you. Nico, you have your hand up. Nico, you're muted.
Hello, Mark.
Yes,
Actually,
Nico.
no, I just want to ask you because right now after COVID, I showed some the buyer for the house. We signed the PID form, and end up they use the other realtor to body the house. How I'm going to? Is that possible? I can get it back my commission.
I don't necessarily understand your question. You
No, I mean,
showed the house.
I showed the house, and the buyer already signed the PID form.
If you had a buyer broker agreement before you went in, then they loyal.
The PID form is not a buyer broker agreement.
No.
Yeah, we don't have
The PID form is just a declaration the PID form is just a declaration they're not sick.
Right.
That's it. That gives you, it gives you no procuring cause. It gives you no basis for going after the commission. It's a different question for a different time, if you will. It's not really for the listing process, but that's something that I try to overcome with my coaching clients, and that don't just go blindly show houses to people. It's a waste of, I'm going to tell you right now, 9 times out of 10, it's a waste of time. It's a waste of your time. If someone wants to see a house, you've never met them before, you have to have a presentation, have a buyer consultation, accept their expectations, saying, I'm showing you this house, I expect you to buy this house from me. The only reason they resist this hour or 45-minute presentation is because they already have another agent that they've already committed to that's going to give them 80% of the commission back, and they're just there to waste your time. Don't let them waste your time.
Oh,
Insist on a
okay.
consultation ahead of time and set their expectations. Have them sign a buyer broker agreement. If people are hesitant to sign a buyer broker agreement, it means they're up to no good.
Walk away.
Walk away.
Okay.
So go back to Redfin and select this, show me another house to somebody else. You're not obligated to show houses to people that aren't committed to working with you. And the best way to do that is to have that consultation. There's no way around it. And you have to set their expectations. And then once you have an agreement, this is how we work moving forward, then show them all the houses they want to see. And you'll be their agent. But
Mark,
you know, a lot of times people don't care about you.
No.
You know, the people that you don't know, especially the people clicking on Redfin, show me a house, they don't know you, they don't care about you, they'll waste your time 10 times out of 10 without even batting an eye. So you
Mark-
protect your time. Sheila.
Mark, is it possible if the listing agent now knows the buyer because you've given that information in the form, and then they sign it, they keep it, and then they go back to that agent? Again, let's say it was that listing agent that they went back to. If that was the case, wouldn't there be a liability on the part of the listing agents taking an offer or writing an offer where you disclosed who they are? I mean, it's
It's a gray
ethics.
area.
It's back to ethics.
It is, but it's a gray area. Yeah. And again, not every listing agent's ethical. And the recourse for that, you know, the clients have to go after them. It's not up to us, unfortunately.
Right, because you don't have any agreement.
Yep. And the PED form is not an agreement. And just showing a house does not present in our state. Just showing the house does not indicate procuring cost for writing the offer. The procuring cost could have been the listing agent following, or them calling the listing agent and making a deal that was lower than or better for them than what you had presented.
Okay. I have one more question, Mark.
Yes.
When I had a listing, so the buyer used the other realtor put the offer for my listing, and their price didn't work out. And after a few days, the buyer contact me directly to ask me, hey, Miko, how much you think your listing the price can work out? And I really like this house, or like a kind of a, he said, oh, if you think what's the price can work out, I can go with you. So can I still do that?
So they made an
So
offer with somebody else. The seller took a
correct.
different offer, or they just didn't make the deal.
Didn't make the deal. Like the price probably just a little bit different. They need to go up a little bit higher price. And the buyer contact me directly to ask me to help them, to represent them to get it a house.
Yeah,
Can't buy
it's
a
not
broker agreement. They can't do it.
because they've already presented an offer that is more procuring cost for the interest in the property. So I would refer them back to their agent and say, bring me an offer, a better offer through your agent, or at the very least offer them a referral fee, a good one.
Just imagine you
at the-
being that agent.
Yeah.
How would you feel?
At the end of the day, the market will shift. And if you have a reputation for doing that, then no one's going to share your listings when it's a buyer's market. They just won't you'll have a very, very, very tough time. So I would recommend that you don't do that, especially if someone presented an offer.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah.
I've had a situation like that with a commercial property where we had multiple offers. And unfortunately, after we took an offer, they didn't perform at the end of the day. It rained and the basement flooded, and they got scared and backed out. We made some repairs a few months later. We went back on the market, and one of the previous buyers came to us directly in the second round And they just said, we just have no confidence in our agent. We've lost 7 times. We're not working with him at all. Will you represent us? And I had no other offers. So we made it happen. But it's a
Okay.
difference. It's a little different case.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So back to the pre-listing presentation. You guys have a little toolkit there on page 6 of your participant guide. Let's see what that looks like. I have the participant guide up. I can pull it up here for us to share too.
Mark, I'm so sorry to interrupt.
Please.
You talked about specific verbiage. For instance, if there's, modifications or agreements to the commission. Because I feel like the documents are legal, is there like a legal standard verbiage for different scenarios that there's a template that we can refer to? Or do people just type in whatever?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question. One more time.
So is there like a standard verbiage? Like, for instance, there's certain scenarios that we already know are going to happen in this industry. Like if you were to negotiate the commissions, like how we were saying earlier, if I give you X amount, then I earn the 6%. If it's 0 amount initially, but is there a specific legal version that we can just copy and paste in the paperwork? Or do people just write whatever they want?
You just write whatever you want. There's the other terms, and to have a sliding scale for commission based on results is not uncommon. It's very common, actually. So if I get you list price or below, it's 1%. If I get you, $50,000 more, it's 1.5. 100,000 more, it's 6%. So you just define those terms in the listing agreement.
But there's no specific verbiage, like it's just write it how you feel type thing.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no boilerplate stuff on that. But I mean, how much variation can you have with, if I sell it for X, I get paid Y? It's pretty simple. If you ever need help with that, just call me. I'd like to walk you through it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Are we good on the pre-listing presentation? What do you guys think? Any thoughts on that before we move on? Basically, with the pre-listing presentation, right, we want to pre-sell ourselves and cut down the time of our appointment. And we do that by sharing information that we can predict the seller will ask, right? Now, how much they're going to get for their house, well, we want to do a CMA for that, so we don't want to necessarily answer that question in a pre-listing packet. But the how much will it cost, you can address. You can either, post your commission if it is what it is. If your commission is variable, then that's a selling point. In the pre-listing package, we have a variable commission structure. At the end of the day, though, if that's the hurdle, right, that needs to be the only hurdle. Mr. Seller, do you realize that my marketing plan will be effective in getting top dollar for your home in a reasonable amount of time? If there's anything other than a yes to that, if there's the answer to that question is anything other than a yes, then you're not ready to negotiate commission. Right? If they say, well, no, we're not really comfortable with your marketing plan. Well, what is it that I'm missing? Is there something that you have seen that you'd like me to do that's not included? Right? And overcome that objection. Maybe they say, oh, the last guy said he's going to send 1,000 postcards to the neighborhood. You send 1,000 postcards to the neighborhood, it's not in your marketing plan. And then you make that decision. Yeah, I'll send 1,000 postcards to your neighborhood. That's a great idea. I'll include that in my marketing plan for the future. Thank you for sharing, Mr. Seller. Is there anything else I can do to win your business today? Is there anything else that you're not comfortable with? Or are we good now? Do you feel that I am the best agent to help you get the most money for your home? And if the only other hurdle left is the commission, then sit down and negotiate that commission, but walk away with a signed listing agreement. And how low you go, that depends on you. But I say, if you're confident in your ability to get more than the next guy, be confident in your ability to negotiate the commission. Right? How in the world is you're hiring somebody to negotiate for you? How are you going to have faith in their ability to get you the top dollar when they can't even get top dollar for themselves. Doesn't make any sense. Mr. Seller, getting the most money for your home is important to you, and it sounds like it is. Why would you hire someone where it's not important to them? If it's not important to them, what are they going to do when it's your money on the line? They're going to fold. Is that what you want? You want the guy that's going to fold? Okay, it's up to you. Hey, usually that guy turns a light on sometimes. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I personally have a problem when things like make sense and people don't get it. They're not getting it, then I'm good. They can hire somebody else. All right, let's talk about the listing presentation.
Hey, Mark, I got a question.
Yes.
Yeah, regards to getting top dollars, again, going back to the office position, because I've had different schools of thought as far as revealing the price as offers are coming in. Some listing agents, they don't like to, hey, just submit your highest and best, and they maybe have 1 or 2 more rounds to obtain the highest and best. But and some agents, and I've done it, as far as revealing the last price that came in. So I want to ask your opinion about that.
My personal opinion is I don't like to reveal anything until I see it, until I see things in writing. And I don't like to negotiate price until I see where they're coming from. So when people are calling me initially and asking those questions, hey, where do I need to be? My answer is always, do your homework, check the comparables, give me the best offer you feel comfortable writing. And if you're in the game, we'll have a further discussion. If you're not, then you're not. But I don't want to predispose you to a number, because the reality is the competition's going to set that price. I haven't seen all the offers yet, so I don't know where the top offer is going to be. So if I tell you 1.2 and you listen and you offer 1.2, but then at the deadline, someone gives me 1.25 with an answer with an hour to respond, guess what's going to happen? You're out. And you may have been willing to pay 1.3 if I didn't open my big mouth and prejudice your opinion. So I say initially, I think it's bad form to disclose where it needs to be. Now, if you don't have the momentum, if you're having a hard time generating offers, if you're not going to get 8 or 9 offers, you may only get 1 or 2, and your seller wants X and people are talking Y, then it's a different story. Then you may need to pull them up and share that info with them and say, the list price isn't transparent. People aren't liking this, or this is this and this and that. Something's happening. We're not getting what we initially hoped for, but my client won't sell it for this. They want 10% more. So please be there with your offer and we can work together. So everything is on a case-by-case basis. But if you have a hot listing, you have 50 people coming through an open house, or you put the listing out on Wednesday, and by Thursday or Friday your entire weekend's already booked with viewers, then it's a different story. And in those cases, the competition is going to dictate the price. And I think you're doing everyone a disservice if you share with them what your feelings are, where you think it'll be. Now, there's some agents that, and when you're on the buyer side, and I'm a big advocate of this, you take people in circles and you try to get as much information out of them as you possibly can, right? They're going to say no, you're going to make friends and try to get information out of them, however you can. But this is not a fair business. It's not a fair world. Those that ask and are aggressive are going to win most of the time. But as a listing agent, obviously we're working against that. And our goal is to try to get the most we can. And, you have that insight being the listing agent, what your showings look like. How many people are downloading disclosures, so you can kind of gauge and say, okay, yeah, this is a competition. The price is going to be set by the competition. So I don't want to prejudice your thought. Do your homework. This is your competition. You're going to have 5 or 6 competing offers. Give me your very best offer. And if you're at the top at the end of the day, we'll have further negotiation, or you'll have good news. If you feel that you're already pushing the value up above where you think it'll be, then tell them, hey, you're probably not going to get a counteroffer. So please do your very, very best. And that's the other thing. I've seen agents where they think they're entitled to a counteroffer, or where we've done business before, and they come in on the next listing and they just come in low. And it just is what it is. And I don't like that. I say, you know, just because we'd had a good transaction in the past, you know, if you're there on the price, we'll have a further discussion, but don't use that as an excuse to try to come in and lowball. Because if you're not there, then you're probably going to get the call that everyone else is going to get. Hey, let's hold it to somebody else. Better luck next time. So
Yeah,
it's important.
I just want to clarify that I'm not telling them the exact price, but rather I'm telling them this is the last offer that came in as far as, you know, what came in last. Of course, I will not further disclose past the deadline. They get to know.
Well, no, if you disclose what came in last, how do you know what they're going to offer? How do you know what they feel about the value of the place?
I don't.
How do you know?
I wouldn't know.
You don't.
Yeah,
And you don't even know their capabilities. So I would advise against doing that. I would
Mark,
just say, hey, guy, make your very best offer. If you're there, we'll have a further discussion. If we're not there on price, then, or if your buyer's incapable of getting there, then, you know, that is what it is. But I
Mark.
need them to make the offer. You need them to make the offer because you need those numbers. Even if he's not going to be right, you need to tell the next guy, I have 8 offers instead of 7. I have 9 offers instead of 6. It changes things down the road. So you don't want to discourage anyone from writing an offer either by saying that a price is much higher than it really is.
Mark, don't you think
Sure.
a listing agent, when they see the best offers coming in, has an obligation to give those 3 best offers an opportunity to come back and you don't tell them anything. I said, you are one of the 2 or 3 best offers. If you can respond, and that way the buyer feels, oh, I can go higher, even though he never said he could. And this gives the seller a chance to re-examine the best offers and the highest offers. I think that that's only fair, because I lost out to like $50,000 on a really beautiful property. And I said, if I knew it was 50,000, my buyer would have immediately presented us a $50,000 increase. I didn't know that because I was told, you know, your offer wasn't accepted. Whereas if the 2 or 3 top offers were given a chance to respond, I think they could have had a good bidding war, which is what you want for a seller.
Yeah, every situation is going to be different, Sheila, but no, they don't owe you. The listing agents don't owe you a counteroffer.
I
If you're not the very,
understand that.
very best. And you don't know what the terms of the very, very best are, right? There's 50 factors in an offer. They're not all just price. And, you know, you don't know what the other deadlines were either. Because the guy that has the very best offers may say, okay, this is a non-contingent offer that's, you know, 50 grand more than everything else. And that expires in an hour, and in 3
No,
hours,
they're
we're going to
gonna
go
put
after a
you
different
under a gun.
property.
I understand.
So
If the
they do.
seller, no, if
You
the,
never
if the,
know.
no, if the buyer's agent puts you under a gun, you're not going to work with them because you know that you have an opportunity to do better, especially
Well,
in this
it depends.
market.
It depends on where they are. If they're the best offer on the table, and by significantly the best offer on the table, I wouldn't mess around. I'd
That's a
take the best offer
strategy
on the
to
table.
take it. I mean, I've done that and I've succeeded doing that. But I don't think that that listing agent did the right thing by taking my offer, because I really don't, because I think in the next day I got so many calls. How did you get that? How did you? I said, well, I communicated, etc. So I think in my case, it worked for me. It worked for my buyer. They're very happy. But I don't think he represented his sellers the best. That's my experience. That's my opinion. That's
Yeah, every situation is different. So you never know who's under the gun where and what the capabilities are. And when I get them, I look at everything on the offer. What are the cash terms? What are the pre-approval? You call the lender, you find out if the people even have the ability to go higher. Sometimes they don't, right? So in many cases, it makes sense to go back with a round of counters, but not in every case. And definitely not everybody. So,
No.
you know, it's a matter of stacking the offers sometimes, and sometimes you win, sometimes you don't. But a reputation has to do with it too. Like if I know that everyone's going to get a counter, I'm not going to give the best offer. And that's, I think, a waste of time for everybody, because you're going to drag things out a week. Whereas some agents say, you know me, you know how I work. Give me your very best offer, or you're going to get bad news tomorrow. So feel good about what you put on the piece of paper. And that's an expectation. And that's an expectation for the next opportunity as well. That, you know, we're not going to get another chance, Mr. Buyer. Can you offer 100 more? Let's offer 100 more. So that helps negotiations and future presentations. So everyone's different. Everyone's going to have their opinion on how to best work it. And whenever we have a buyer that doesn't win, we always have second guess the scenario. But the only thing that I would say is, if it didn't work for them this time, the next time when you're putting that offer together, you're like, remember what happened? Is this the very best that you're willing to do? Because we have a lot of competition here. Someone will do, the person that wins is going to be the one that wants it the most. How much do you want this house? The ones that say, whatever it takes, I want this house, they're the ones that are going to win. Because it puts you in a different position negotiating their result with the listing agent. Okay. So pre-listing presentations are important. We know that it's going to affect your listing presentation by helping you save time and effort and energy. Go to your Ignite toolkits to get ideas for that pre-listing packet and then customize it for your own business and your own needs. Nancy, question.
I'm so sorry to beat a dead horse, but
Okay.
is there, I'm so sorry. I just forgot exactly what I was going to say. Scratch that. Just
think of it and raise your hand again.
Never
It's all
mind.
good. Okay.
Okay. Thank
All right. So the pre-listing packet sets the stage, right? The actual listing presentation is going to be your actual plan to market their house, their comps, to help them understand the pricing strategy and all the other information you need to show the seller that you can help them achieve their goals. So the pre-listing pack, the pre-listing presentation contains the generalities, and then the specifics are in the actual listing presentation. And that's what we're going to talk about real quick here. Now, everyone's going to have a different style with their listing presentation. Everyone's going to have a different style. Everyone's going to have a different method, if you will. I know my very first listing presentations, I had a PowerPoint and I'd go in and kind of do a little dog and pony show. I don't do that anymore. Now I just come in with a notepad, take notes, and address the questions that are important to the people. Nancy, did you read?
Yes,
Remember.
sorry, no, remember. When we had our meeting with Tam for the listing presentation, weren't we told that we have to communicate to everyone when they submitted an offer, whether they got it or not? Is that not a new rule, or am I?
Well, not when they sub. You're going to
Sorry.
communicate with everyone. Yeah, if they didn't get the offer, you have to tell them, call them, let them know that they didn't get it.
But I guess to Sheila's point, I guess it would be best practice, even if you did have an offer, an hour like time frame to respond back, to kind of communicate with the other agents to get the best deal for the seller. Am I thinking wrong?
Well, yeah, you're going to run the situation how you're going to run the situation, right? If you have some time on the best offer and the second best offer is coming in, it all depends on that agent and how aggressive they are. If they say, hey, Mark, did you sign already? We're like, no, we're about to sign. They're like, well, if we came in with 100 grand more, could we be competitive? And if that's the case, then you come in with 100 grand more. You have 30 minutes. Hurry up. Get it to me before we're meeting. I let people know, hey, we're meeting at this time, and at this time we're going to make their decision. And the aggressive agents are going to be calling me and saying, Mark, you see my offer. Am I competitive? I don't know how many times I've rewritten and submitted an offer at the last second and won, because the guy said, no, Mark, you're not competitive. So you go back to your clients and goes, guys, we're not competitive. Do you guys want to up your offer? They say yes or no. Then it's their choice, right? But as a diligent buyer's agent, you want to be in conversation. You want to build that rapport with the listing agent so that they trust and like you, and that they were willing to share that information. And if it's a super hot deal, that around offer time, it's going to be tough to break through to the listing agent. So if your offer is not competitive to begin with, having that conversation is going to be a challenge. But if you're close, they're going to I'll call you and say, you're pretty close, but you're not there. What do you guys want to do? You have an hour. And then I put it back on you.
Can't you actually say all responses will be in 24 hours? And you take control instead of them telling you control of you. That way they don't expect an answer, and you have that hour, that day, to go back to the top ones who who look like they can perform, and let them know you're in the top 3. You have time to redo your offer. I can't tell you what, but you're in the top 3. And how much, I can't tell you more, but at least as a professional, you're giving another professional an opportunity, which is what I think is ethical.
Yeah, I agree with you.
So
I
I
agree
don't
with you.
take, I don't take a push from somebody who tells me take it now or leave it. I say goodbye.
Yeah, it all depends on where they are. If they're 5% over your next one, then they
You
could be
You
forcing you.
don't know unless you go back to the top three and you say to them, look, you're in the top three. I'm asking you, do you want to up your offer? You're giving them an option. I mean, that's how I feel.
Yeah.
I don't just take it because it's 5% over or
And
whatever. The
Sheila,
market-
you're not wrong. You're
The
not wrong.
market is too hot to just walk away from people and tell them, go find something else, because they will come up with more money.
No, you're not wrong.
So
You're not
I
wrong.
never take a one hour deal and say, you better take it now. I don't play hardball like that.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Well, it doesn't work because you lost whoever was giving you an offer, the option to up their offer. You don't give them the option. You say, well, I just took my offer, goodbye.
I mean, it's not a fair business. It really isn't.
I don't think it's.
I got one in escrow yesterday. The way we did it was the guy said, oh, we'll open to a preemptive offer. He had another offer on the table. I knew about that offer. I beat that offer and I gave him 2 hours. He signed it within 2 hours. Preemptive. Probably disappointed a bunch of people. It is what it is. We win though. So, you know, every situation is different. Would I have done what the listing agent did? Hell no. But that's why they are what they are, and that's why they get 1% and I get 2.5%. It's a difference, right? So anyway, back to the listing presentations. Right. In the listing presentation, that's where basically you sell yourself and what you're going to do to meet the goals of that seller. Again, my first question when I sit down is, guys, if I don't ask, I won't know. And I can't be the answer to your prayers if I don't know what you're praying for. So please, what can we do? What can we do to make this a successful transaction? How can I meet your expectations? And then what's important to you about the process that we need to explain? And there's going to be certain things that you're going to really need to go over, right? Just beyond, you know, how much they're going to get and what time is it going to take. Like, what's the process look like? How are people going to be coming through my house? What are their qualifications for being in the house? How is the showing work? Are you going to put a lockbox on, or are you, Mr. Agent, going to walk everybody through the house? What's the expectation? You know, different regions have different expectations on that too, right? If you're transacting in San Francisco, a lot of times the listing agents are present and they sell the house. That's expected. Buyer's agents expect the listing agent to be there to help them show the house. In the South Bay, that's not necessarily the case. My personal philosophy is, hey, I want the buyer to feel the most comfortable as they possibly can in the house so they can make a good buying decision. The only way they feel most comfortable is if they're there alone with their agent that they know and trust. That's my philosophy. So I don't think there's anything I can say to sweet talk anyone into buying a house. Right. They're either going to love it or they're not. What we do to sweet talk them is present the house to the best of our abilities. Make the house as clean as we possibly can, advise the seller about staging the property, properly arranging their furniture, or if there is no furniture, bringing in a stager to bring in, you know, to make the house look as best as we possibly can. That's the selling that we do. Me being there personally, sweet talking them is not going to help facilitate their buying decision. If anything, it's just going to turn them off. That's just my opinion. And again, like I said, different areas are going to have different expectations. But it's important that we understand that and express that to your clients. Now, Mr. Client, how would you like to be communicated with? Do you want me to bug you after every showing and share every feedback, or should we have a meeting once a week? If the market's super, super hot, it may be an every showing thing. If the market's not super, super hot, probably once a week, having a once a week meeting with your listing clients is what's necessary and right to review all the action that's taken place, review feedback, right? If the market's not super hot and you're not getting off, 5 or 6 offers, then it's important to understand, hey, why didn't these people buy our house? What feedback do they have? Was it dirty? Was it overpriced? Obviously, did the people buy a different house? They felt that another house met their needs better. It was maybe a better value. What our current competition looks like, what new homes came on the market, right? If your neighbor just listed 3 or 4% below you, what's going to happen in the weekend for your house? It's not going to sell. They're going to buy your neighbor's house. It's cheaper, right? Understand that, You have to be competitive every day. So it's important to share that information and understand when and how often you're going to share that information. So definitely, I would say a weekly meeting with the listing client is a great idea. But also leverage technology, right? We have the listing alerts, the neighborhood alerts, make sure that the clients know if there's a new listing that pops on the market in their neighborhood, that it's there and what the list price is. Make sure your tools are set up for that. I have had instances where, and people realize it, they get it. They say, Mark, the guy around the corner with the same floor plan just came on for 50,000 less than us. So we lower our price to be competitive with them. Yes, you can. Let's do that, right? But they won't do that unless you educate them. You're going to educate them and let them know that, hey, every week or every day, if something new is coming on, you'll be notified by email. If you have any questions, call me. If you want to adjust at any time, call me. And then once a week, we'll have our meeting. Usually at the meeting, you'll have a meeting of the minds and do your very best to present the house moving forward.
Okay.
What other things do you think are going to be important to talk about in the listing presentation? What do you do with the prescription medications and the Rolex watches? And make sure they know how to properly stow away their valuables so that there are no questions or issues. Now, if you like to leave your watch on the counter, don't. Not for the open house. Most people are good people. They're not kind of there to steal things, but if you put a $100 bill in front of them on the floor, most people will pick it up. So just be careful and be diligent. I always advise people to store their valuable belongings in a box, including their prescription medications. Take that box and shove it underneath their bed. People are going to, when it's not COVID times, and even now they still do, right? People are going to open the drawers. They're going to see what the cabinets look like. They're going to open your closet door. They want to see the depth and the capacity of your closet. It's reasonable for them to do that. In normal times, I encourage buyers to do that. There's no reason for anybody to be crawling under your bed and looking at boxes. So that being said, that's probably the safest place for things to be. And if you have extremely valuable items, jewelry and whatnot, if you don't have a safe, then I suggest taking them to a friend's or neighbor's, trusted friends or relatives' home for the process of selling the house. I just been notified we have about 10 minutes before we wrap this up. So does anyone have any questions about the actual listing presentation itself?
Yes, but I don't think we have enough time. Can we extend this series to or push it out to tomorrow or next week? Because I feel like this is really important stuff.
We could. And guys, we talk about this kind of stuff every Monday too, 8 o'clock.
Yes, I would
Listing
definitely
club.
recommend everyone to come at our listing club on 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Mondays. These are great questions that you can definitely be asking during those times, and we have it weekly. So hopefully you guys can drop into those because that'd be definitely an opportunity for you to discuss more about this.
Yeah, and if you guys have specific scenarios, listing presentations, or opportunities that you're chasing after, and you have questions or concerns and what we could do to improve, call me anytime. Always happy to help. I mean, we really need to be a stronger listing office in general, and whatever we can do to facilitate that is what we do.
Mark, I have a question. Your needs first, that particular series, is it in Command?
One more time.
What you have on the
Oh,
screen?
this?
In Command.
Yeah, the information's in Command. There's also a very good toolkit, Ignite toolkit. We'll have information there too. Yeah. But these are questions that you're going to ask your sellers when you're in your presentation, or even pre-presentation, that you want to understand, right? You can't be the answer to their prayers. What's the one thing that has to happen to make your dream scenario a reality? You know, if they're not understanding of the process, if there's anything you can add to the process that'll make it even better, ask that. And then the question of the day, and my favorite question that really works and digs a little deeper into people's motivations and understandings, is why is that important to you? Yeah, we'd like to sell this house in 30 days or less. Well, why is that important? What do you have going on? What's the real motivation? And that'll help you dictate the strategy and presentation. All right, we don't have time to present the listing presentation, so Jackie, you let me off the hook on this one. But I know on Listing Club, we're going to be interviewing Maddie this week. I think next week we can role model a listing presentation. So please join me for both. It'll be a good time.
Mark,
it's
I
a-
also wanted to mention that we have our, we've got a 2-hour in-depth class scheduled for April. So everybody keep your eyes on the calendar for that. Mark will be presenting a 2-hour in-depth presentation on how to win the listing through the presentation itself. So don't make sure that when that pops up on the calendar that you carve out time for it so you can ask questions and get the detail and the engagement from the other associates. It's never the same when it's recorded.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's true.
thank
That'll
you.
be fun. It'll be a good class. And we'll go
Awesome.
more into depth. Actually, that'll be the perfect forum to complete this. Right, the listing appointment, the recaps, and the listing appointment itself. And just to quickly go through the last 5 minutes here, right? Listing appointment, first thing you do is walk through the house. I take copious notes on everything I see because, you know, that's what you're there to kind of do to help them maximize their return and help them realize what needs to be done. After walking through the house, then you do the question and answer session about what's going on in the market, what their expectations should be or what they are and how you can meet them. And if they have a clear understanding of your plan of marketing the home for a top dollar sale. Where's my favorite listing pyramid? It's not there in here, but there's a graphic that kind of goes into detail for pricing to help you with pricing strategy, right? Depending on the percentage above or below market, the number of eyes that are attracted to the house. In a strong market like today, and this is what we're seeing, you know, if you're pricing the house 10 to 15% below market, it's going to attract 100% of the market to the house. If you're pricing it at market value, it's only going to attract 65% of the market to the house. So it's not an uncommon strategy today to underlist the property by 10, 15%. We're trying to get the most market exposure. It should already be understood. Sometimes listing agents are putting it out in the guidelines saying, hey, by the way, our list price is not transparent. Where another key to that is when in the agent remarks, it says, please check the comps for pricing guidance. They're saying check comps for pricing guidance. It means we underpriced this on purpose. We expect offers to be higher. So read into that as the agents, right? But again, when you're talking to your sellers and you're setting their expectations, you know, Mr. Seller, you know, yeah, we can ask for more money, but if it doesn't work out, we're on the market for 30 days. And at the end of the day, we're probably going to get less than we should have, because after a period of time, if you're not sold, we all know this, listing gets stale, and then the opportunists come out with the low balls. That's just how life is. Whereas if we price the property aggressively today, everyone will come to the market over the next week or two. We'll have competition driving the price up to where you'd like it to be, and we'll be done in 2 weeks as opposed to 6 weeks. And think about it. For 2 weeks, you have to make sure your house is a museum. That means spotless. You have to sweep the floor every day. You have to, no dishes left in the sink. They have to be cleaned, dried, and put away every day, right? Some people live like that, and that's great, and that makes it easy for them, but not everyone. And for many people, it's just a struggle to make their bed every morning. And you'll know that when you walk through their house. It'll be obvious. So when you have that conversation, it's like, well, do you want to live like this for 6 to 8 weeks? And the answer to that is no, we want to be done this weekend. Then if you want to be done this weekend, let's follow the pricing strategy that we have in place. Let's be aggressive, and let's, you know, do everything we can to get this sold as fast as possible so you can go back to living your normal life, hopefully with the full bank account. All right, guys, we got 5 minutes. If you have any last questions, otherwise we'll continue this discussion at another time. Next month, we'll have a listing class for sure. Thank you guys for joining me today. I appreciate your input. I appreciate your collaboration. And I appreciate you all for being with us here at Keller Williams.
Thank you, Mark.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Mark.